Why do I go without coffee for like a week and then overdo it when I decide to get back on the train? Why? It is Jitter City up in here.
Sometimes I do a little dance for my cat. Hey, I'm not hurting anyone.
No, cat dancing is good exercise. I also sing to my cat. I also sing to my dog. Why else have pets?
Indeed. That feeling when the weekend forecast says rain, but ends up being super epic, so you bask and play and toast the good weather people everywhere.
Have such a good day. Oh, hello, world. We didn't see you there. Welcome to Have Such a Good Day, the show that wants you to do just that.
Episode 145. How is everybody doing out there? No, really, be honest. We're all friends here.
Yeah.
How the hell are you doing?
It's okay
are you
to
eating
not
a
be
proper
okay.
breakfast? It's important to eat a proper breakfast.
Are you getting enough fiber?
Actually, Sarah, I've been putting, I don't know if you do this, but like I make like a yogurt granola in the morning and I put chia seeds and kind of ground up flax in there. I'm feeling pretty good about myself. I feel like it's
some
a
good
healthy
fiber.
breakfast. Yeah,
A
and
little
get the
omega-3
probiotics
action.
and exactly.
All the things.
But I have to tell you, so
Yes, please. Go on.
I have my morning ritual, as you and I both do, and we share our Wordles, and I get my coffee, I sit by my window, and my cat curls up in my lap, and I do my Wordle. You know, I feel like I'm pretty good at Wordle. I'm good at word games. We've talked about this before.
Yeah.
I know there's like maybe a slight strategy, but a lot of it is kind of blind luck. But there's this type of Wordle that really grinds my gears, as you would say. And I like a challenge. Like I am happy to have a word challenge.
Do
but
I
this
say
one
that a
seems
lot?
unfair. Yeah, you do.
Okay. That was like, as I would say. Okay. Yeah. All right.
But
Cool.
not giving today's Wordle away, but for example, like say you put night, the word night, and then you have everything but one letter. Like say you don't have the first letter. And
Sure.
so there's like literally like a dozen options. It could be
it could
fight,
be sight
light,
or
might,
fight.
sight.
Yeah.
And that's the one that really bothers me because you kind of have to just take a stab in the dark, especially when there's more than 3 or 4 options.
You're looking for something that requires a little bit more skill, right? Wordle is a lot of,
it is a lot of blind luck. I mean, I do the crosswords, I do the mini crosswords. I mean, I'm a New York Times subscriber, so I do all those games, like the spelling bee, it's endless. I mean, I'm even doing like Sudoku now, which I never used to do.
Oh yeah,
And
I used to be a Sudoku fan.
I spend quite a bit of time doing the crosswordle, the Quirtle, the French version, which I got in one try, by the way, yesterday. I have to pat myself on the back because I don't know why, but this word just popped in my head. Vache, which is cow. This is yesterday's, so hopefully I'm not giving anything away, no
by the
spoilers.
time you're hearing this, the day will be over.
Exactly. And
We're fine.
I put vache in. Like I've never used that. Like, I mean, it's not that risky because there is an A and an E, but it isn't my first choice. And I got it. It was just blind luck.
Well, you were talking about your breakfast. This is not something I ate for breakfast, but last night for dinner, I ate 2 artichokes. Just wanted to let
very
everybody
you.
know that's what dinner was last night.
Well, what did you dip? Did you have a dip?
Oh yeah, it's mayonnaise. Gotta
it
go
has
with
to be
mayonnaise.
mayonnaise, yeah.
I like my lemonade, which is it's this brand called the Ojai Cook. They make a bunch of different I wouldn't even call it fancy mayonnaise, but mayonnaise that has a little flair.
It's not
and this
aioli, but it's somewhere in between.
It's as if you just squeezed a lot of lemon juice into mayonnaise, but it's not runny. It just tastes
okay, got
lemony.
it.
It's
Yummy.
very good.
Yeah.
But no, I have this thing where I'm an artichoke fan. Not everybody is, but I love them. But
too.
they're often really expensive, even though in California they're probably going to be less expensive than other parts of the world where they would have to be shipped in from somewhere. Because there are artichokes that obviously grow in the state, but when an artichoke dips under $2, I'm like, that's starting to look pretty good. And I went to the store yesterday and they were like $1.59 each. And I was like, oh, heck yes. Get a couple. And it's like, I never really want to eat 2 artichokes at once because I would like to, save one for later. But because there's a lot of steaming involved, and you kind of have to steam it for a while. You don't just like steam it for a few minutes. It's more like closer to an hour.
Some serious steaming going on.
There's some serious steaming. And so then I've got 2 nice artichokes. I could just refrigerate one of them, but then I just keep looking at it and I'm like, why not?
Hey,
so
I find
anyway,
artichokes very interesting because I am a huge fan too. Like any artichoke hearts, I always order them when they're on the menu. Grilled artichokes, but and they're fun to eat. My boyfriend does not like them, and he's from the Midwest. I blame the Midwest for everything, but yeah, he doesn't like them, and I'm like, I find them to be the most innocuous flavor. They're like, how do you even describe an artichoke flavor? It's almost bland, but it's so specific to an artichoke. Yeah, you either love them or you hate them, I guess.
they're also if you're going to eat an entire artichoke kind of with your hands, because how else are you going to do it? They're messy.
They are.
It's you lean into it or you don't. And it's funny because there's a lot of other finger food that I'm not crazy about, where I'm like, it's just too messy,
Yeah,
like I feel like I need to be wearing a bib right now. But I don't know. I guess I ate a lot of artichokes when I was a kid, and it was always like this fun thing, like, ooh, artichoke night.
Yeah,
So,
we used to actually grow them. I mean, you can't grow them up here, but when in Los Gatos, I remember as a kid, like we had artichokes out back. It was kind of a trip.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. My dad was a real green thumb. But hey, guys, welcome to the show that unpacks the absurdity of everyday life for your entertainment. Sometimes we talk about artichokes. Sometimes we talk about other snacky things. And we're really happy to have you along for this crazy ride.
We sure are. And here we are at episode 145. I know we say this every time, but it's like, how did we get to 145
I don't
episodes,
know.
Heather?
I mean, Sarah, has it been 2 years, 3 years, 4 years? I'm losing track.
Have we ever not done the show in our lifetime?
Could you imagine we started this when we were kids? It's been 25 years.
Yes. Heather and I were 8. And we had this podcast idea.
It does
and we're
feel like
still
that,
doing
actually.
it. 145 years later.
Serious history, man.
Well,
We're going to be like all like crotchety, like old ladies, like, welcome to Have Such a Good Day, the show that wants you to do just that.
yeah,
How
we
you
still
doing, Sarah?
want that for you. Oh, God.
So much to look forward to.
Really? Yes. I mean, at least I'm not, I don't know. I called myself middle-aged the other day. I don't even remember the context, and someone was like, middle-aged, come on, Sarah, do yourself a favor.
Yeah.
You don't have to say that. But I was like, I'm pretty sure I'm at a middle of lifespan age.
Well, they call 40 middle-aged, don't they? Like even when you hit 40.
They call 40 over the hill.
Yeah.
I don't really know if middle-aged has a beginning and an end. But I always thought of it as when someone says that, it's like kind of older, not elderly, but you're older.
No. Yeah.
But it's like, if you break down and think of like the definition of middle of life, I think I'm probably right about there. Who knows?
you're right
Maybe
about
I'll
there.
live to 130 and I'm not middle-aged yet.
And then you'll be all wrong.
I'll complain for that much longer in my life.
So much to look forward to, I'm telling you.
Oh gosh. Speaking of looking forward to things, spring has sprung. We've talked about this, and since we were on the show last, things change around here pretty quickly, just because there's kind of like where you live, Heather. I mean, there's just so much flora and fauna, but the flora is doing its thing. April is a really beautiful time in my neck of the woods, and it's been a little cold here, been a little rainy, in fact, but it just, when I'm having sort of a down day, I can look at that dogwood tree outside and be like, you know what though? Look at that thing. That is one beautiful little specimen. And
nature heals.
Everything's okay. What is not always okay is the amount of dust in my home. Now, we all are familiar with cleaning houses and the fact that dust happens and you got to dust, right? You don't dust, things get dusty. My house is particularly dusty for a variety of reasons. First of all, some of my windows don't totally close fully. It's just an old cabin, It's the most charming little cabin you ever did see, but dust gets in, right? Especially if it's windy and there's just a lot of pollen around. It's like, it's just going to come in. But I also have these beautiful wood walls, wood ceiling, everything's, it's very redwoody. And so everything shows up, cobwebs, dust, all the things. And I sometimes just kind of look at it and go, it's not hurting anybody. But then, if you have, and I know you feel this way too, Heather, because you actually do a lot of hosting for like friends and family where you live. Me less so, but when someone is over, of course you want to make sure that the house looks nice. And there are times where I'm just like, I will never get ahead of this dust. I mean, I can do my best. Never. But it's just, yeah. I keep waiting to like get to the end of the road of dust, and it's like, no, it'll just keep happening. I mean, unless I were to, even if I were to like lock down and never open my windows, which wouldn't happen, but even if I were to do that, it still just happens.
No one can escape dust. Dust is like this very strange thing, because I think about that too. I remember living in the city. Remember, I was on like the 5th floor in San Francisco, and I was like up high.
I loved that apartment
of yours. Me too. I think about it to this day.
It was a very adorable apartment. I gotta say,
and it was like weirdly spacious for. I mean, it was a 1-bedroom, but it was quite spacious. Like I had a really big living room,
and you had like a cool hallway.
Very cool like foyer.
Yes. Yeah, you don't just like, kind of like walk into that front room the way you do in certain apartments.
It was a special spot. Yeah. I mean, the landlord was kind of a dick, but that's cool. I was there for like 5 years though. I do think about that. I drive by it when I go to San Francisco. I'm like, I lived there. It's so cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that one, I mean, I remember the dust, like the rubber particles from the cars would settle on the windowsill. Every time I mean, any other apartment I lived in the city, you'd have that happen. Even on streets that weren't super busy. Like I remember when I lived in West Hollywood, we weren't even on a really busy street, but I remember this like black dust, this crud, like on my patio and like on the windowsills. And it used to, it was kind of stressed me out. And it, I mean, it's toxic. It's really toxic. So I feel for you. Dust, no matter where you are, you're going to have some kind of dust, but I almost prefer the country dust because it seems less toxic. If that makes any sense.
I know what you mean. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Who knows? The dust around my house might be very toxic.
Maybe you need to get like a little feather duster and like a little outfit and just like have fun with it.
Go full French maid on everybody. Yeah. Like, can you imagine? Like I have people over for brunch and I'm just like in my little French maid outfit, like dusting the fireplace. Hello, welcome.
That wouldn't be weird at all.
No, it wouldn't. I don't know. Somebody might appreciate it. Others might feel pretty strange. But yeah, so dust happens, and what are you gonna do? I don't know. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Well, I mean, what you're gonna do is dust as regularly as you can. But I had a did I tell you about the bat incident?
Yeah, that was crazy. That would freak me out, honestly.
The bat incident, because I've got this. It's hard to explain unless you could see my house. I don't know how to explain it to everybody. Well, you have. But I've got this loft, where you climb up a ladder, pretty sturdy ladder. I mean, it's super cool.
Hopefully.
But right, yeah. Unless you fall, you got to use both hands. But it gets really dusty up there. And during the bat incident, there was time in the loft, and it was mayhem. And the loft is extremely dusty, and it's like I keep thinking to myself, like, you know what, I gotta figure out a way to get up there and dust that dang thing. But then it's like I'm worried that the dust is going to fall on everything below my loft because the loft is sort of open.
Yeah, then you have to dust downstairs.
Well, and I think like I would have to like maybe like put sheets over all my furniture and then wash the sheets afterwards. It's kind of an ordeal. So we'll get there. We'll get there, everybody.
Whoa, I almost called you Heather. Sarah, life is an ordeal. Oh my God,
Heather.
How weird is that? That never happens like with anyone else. Why am I calling you my name? What is wrong with me?
We've always been this way. We have a real issue.
Like Bobbsey twins. Jesus.
We are not the same person, everybody. In fact, we're quite different.
We are quite different, but we mesh pretty well.
Yeah, we do. We're a good pair. I'm
are.
your little spoon.
Yeah. The littlest spoon, indeed.
Well, so how's everything been going with you?
Well, about bats, I'd like to circle back on the bat
Okay.
thing,
Yeah.
because the last time I took my cat to the vet was so aggro about getting a rabies shot, and it's controversial getting shots for your pets because it's kind of like vaxing. I mean, it is vaxing, but like for your animals. And I didn't like the idea of the rabies shot because I'm like, well, they're indoor cats. Like, it's fine. And anyway, so she was saying that there are bats everywhere and you just never know. And I'm like, great. And now that you have had a bat incident, I'm on my guard. I'm on my guard for bats. I'm looking over my shoulder because I don't want to have a confrontation. One thing I would like to have a confrontation with is a fox.
You want to confront a fox?
I want
Okay.
I want a fox to come to my window and say hello because we had a guest recently, a couple days ago actually, that wrote this nice review. And we have a book, not just like the online reviews, but my dad always had like a journal in there and people like draw or write in there. It's sweet actually.
A little guest book.
To
Yeah, we
page
have one
through-
of those too.
Through those, yeah, it's sweet. And the woman who stayed there said that a fox literally like came up to the window and like looked in, and I would love that so much. So I'm just throwing it out there. You little foxes, come visit me. I'd love to see you face to face, but no bats. Bats, please stay away.
I am pro bat in
you?
theory. Bats don't like scare me or creep me out or anything. I think bats are actually really cool. But when a bat is stuck in my small wood cabin, which has
You
high
want to keep
ceilings.
bats at arm's length. I know what you're saying.
Yeah, you just, there was a moment where I was sort of like, okay, if the bat can't get out, because there's only one way out. I have screens on all my windows. You got to go out the front door.
Yeah.
But my ceiling is really high, at its apex. So it's like if the bat just like refuses to go back out the front door, and then of course I'm worried that like another bat will come in because the front door's open.
Yeah.
Mayhem. But
totally
it
mayhem.
all worked out. But yeah, I was sort of like, will the bat just sort of like also go to sleep tonight if we just can't like make it work? Luckily, I didn't have to find out.
Yeah, I do appreciate critters like that. I appreciate spiders. I do. I think they're fascinating creatures. I don't want them near me, but I still think they're interesting. But anyway, so enough about the woodland creatures of the world. But I wanted to ask your opinion about something, Sarah. You're a real tech savvy gal. And,
Thank you.
obviously we're entering more of an automated world. We've talked about this on the show. There's been a lot more like, spying and all these questions of whether our tech is spying on us and all that kind of thing. People put tape over their cameras on their computer. I don't do that. I'm not that paranoid, but I do know people who are. So I'm
Well,
like,
and it's not just paranoia. I mean, there's specific reasons people do that, but I don't either. I don't.
Yeah, I'm
I
not
guess I don't care that much.
I mean, I don't want anyone to steal my identity. That I've heard stories about that. It's a total nightmare. But what I don't like too is, so you know how you open up and I know I can turn this off. I haven't done it yet, but you open up like a browser on your phone and all the stories they're serving to you are very familiar. You're like, well, wait, I was just searching for, those sandals the other day, and it's all very tailored to like your search, right? And that's somewhat of a new thing.
Are you talking about ads? Or are you talking about like news articles?
No, like actual stories, like news stories that are like too familiar, where I'm like, I just watched that movie last night. Or, well, that's not a good example because it could have just launched online. But like, and my friend Morgan actually told me, she's like, you have to turn off app something like in your Google. And I looked for it, I couldn't find it. Anyway, long story short, I was perusing online to book an appointment with this consignment shop in San Francisco. I'm going to be down there next week and I want to sell some shit. So I'm on their website. I'm not, maybe I'm logged in under me, but like I'm not booking it. I'm just looking to see if they have availability on the days I'm going to be there. I'm kind of poking around, and then I end up not booking anything and I close the browser. within an hour, I get a phone call from that area. And I thought it was my insurance guy. I was kind of waiting for him to call me back. And they're like, "Hi, Heather." And I was like, totally thinking this is the insurance people. And then I realized that this is this consignment shop. Like, "Hey, I saw that you were looking for an appointment. Is there any way, can I help you?" And she knew my name. And I'm like, I was so
And this was
confused.
like
I was
like a
"How did you
person.
know
It
my
wasn't
name?"
like a robocall.
No, it was a person.
Yeah.
A person who I've never talked to before. It just felt kind of invasive. It felt, and I know it's inevitable. This is where our world is going, but I just feel like my every move is being watched lately. And I don't know how I feel about it. I don't really need someone to cold call me like that. Like, just because
No.
I'm looking for an appointment, like, back off.
Yeah, I mean, the only other instance of that I can think that's happened recently, because I recently got to the end of my car lease, and I decided to like just buy my car rather than lease another car. It's
Good job.
just
That's a good
thank
idea.
you. Well, I mean, I'm
That's what I
financing
did.
it.
Yeah,
Listen,
well, of course.
Sarah didn't pay with a bag of cash, everybody. But it's whatever. For 6 months or so, I was waffling. What do I do? Blah blah blah. And so you go and check out inventory at various car dealerships, and it's like, yeah, all that stuff is stuff where like I just had a browser tab open, and then
Yeah.
all of a sudden they call me or they email me, or and I'm like, I didn't even give you any
I
information.
don't like that.
I don't like it either, because I'm sort of like, I don't know. It's like if you were, this is a really weird, like, this is not a great comparison, but if you were looking at a photo of somebody online, like, ooh, are they cute? And then they like call you and be like, hey, do you
Yeah.
want to know more about me? You're like, wow.
Like, your
I
searching
was just
is not
looking.
private anymore. That's what it makes
Yeah.
me feel like. It's like, what if I Google some weird skin rash or something? It's like, am I gonna, is my doctor gonna call me and be like, are you okay? I mean, it's just,
Well, and that is actually, I mean, you speak about paranoia, but those sorts of things are things that we should think about on
Oh,
some
for
level.
sure.
Yeah. I mean, some of my search history is so, I mean, unbelievably mortifying. I mean, you would put me in prison immediately. And but I'm like, I'm just looking. It's the internet. But,
what are you gonna
you
do?
go.
Well, as I mentioned earlier in the show, I was planning on a weekend indoors because the forecast looked really ominous. And actually, I had a friend who was going to come up. I feel kind of bad because I kind of discouraged her because, hi, Rona, if you're listening. But I kind of discouraged her because I was like, well, you totally can come up, but it's going to be raining and cold all weekend, because that's what the forecast said. So I was like, I just think maybe you should plan to come up when it's more beautiful. And so
Yeah.
she was cool. It ended up being this like incredibly epic and sunny weekend. And so I was going to binge some Ted Lasso, but then I didn't. I ended up being outside all weekend. And
I know who's going to be mad at you for that.
I know it's like, when is she ever going to watch that show? It's a really good question. So what was so striking to me, and what I love about living here, like I vacillate, like I'm trying to work this thing where I go to LA, which I've already booked another trip for next month. Like, I have a place that I can stay there that's really beautiful and great. And I'm like, if I can kind of get out more, I think I will feel a lot more contented up here. But, we're pretty isolated. We're pretty deep. We're right on the ocean, like I said. But I couldn't imagine not experiencing this place like on a daily basis, because it's so special. And the ocean is different every day. The sky is different every day. It's ever changing, and it's fascinating. So over the weekend, we had a stormy week. So it was windy, and, there was some rain, and the ocean was really rough and big swell. There were surfers out, everything. And this weekend, it was like almost eerily calm. It was like, sometimes when the ocean is that calm, it doesn't even look like the ocean. It looks like a huge lake, because it is, I mean, there's not even one tiny little wave, no
Like
movement.
no white caps. Yeah.
None.
Stuff that you're
And
used
it's-
to.
Oh, it is so beautiful. And the tide will be really low. So all the little stacks, the rocks kind of poke up, and they're like a dark, they almost look like sort of volcanic dark, type of rock. And I really feel like I'm on some island, you know, and then you see like the different shallowness of the different areas of the ocean, and it looks like tropical because you've got like the light blue and then the darker blue, and I'm just like, where am I? I'm like in Pacific Northwest. This is a trip. Anyway, so I really relished it. We went on a hike. I like climbed this big rock I had like my friend's dog in my arms, and I don't know how I did it. I scuffed my knee. You know, it was just like a very outdoorsy weekend. We watched some whales. You know, we laid in these warm rock piles at this other beach up north that is so beautiful. It's called Big Lagoon, and this whole area is known for agates, the rocks. And agates are kind of like little gems. I've talked about this before. And it's so special. And you find one, it's like finding an Easter egg in an Easter egg hunt. And it was kind of perfect because this happened on Sunday, and we were like laying in these beautiful, I mean, all kinds of colored rocks, like just beautiful rocks. I mean, you want to take them all home with you because they're all actually really pretty in their own way. But I'm always looking for agates because they really stand out because they're like semi-opaque and they really sparkle. And so, yeah, it was like a weekend that made me feel alive, especially after a long winter. And yeah, did you guys do anything fun this past weekend? Email us at hi@havesuchagoodday.com.
Yeah. If you
Sometimes
did
I
something
slur.
fun,
I
you
swear.
better tell us about it, or it wasn't that fun after all. No, that actually
that happens
sounds
too.
that sounds really nice, Heather.
Yeah, it
I
was good.
haven't been to the beach. Gosh, been a couple weeks, which is somewhat unusual. I like to get out there about once a week, especially with Odie, to run him around. We usually go early in the morning, and it's a very, the last time I was there was actually sunset, and which is so beautiful because, of course, you know, on the West Coast, sun setting over the ocean, et cetera, et cetera. But I actually like to go in the morning, because it's pretty in a whole different way, you know, because the sun's coming up over the rocks and whatever. But yeah, well, I'm glad that your warm rock pile was
It soothes me.
soothing and calming,
Thanks,
and,
Sarah.
and
You know,
centered you.
it definitely does. It's nature, I'm telling you. But yeah, it makes you realize how much you kind of I got to get out. I mean, I get out. It's not that I don't get out, but I think being in a place that's like colder and you know, you stay indoors a little bit more. I've got a lot of indoor activities that I love. But it's so nice to get out, you know? You realize I've all these amazing beaches nearby, and I have to make more of an effort.
Yeah, I'm a creature of habit. And part of
Yeah.
that is, I mean, we're all busy people, but my series of jobs, you know, everything is, you know, it's very schedule oriented, you know, like down to the minute. And I think because of that, I kind of go like, okay, if I have an hour in between two tasks, I can do this thing because I've already like mapped it out and I know how much time I need. And I also have to drive everywhere, you know, living where I live,
Yeah.
unless I'm taking a walk. But like if I'm doing anything specific, got to get in the car. And because of that, it's like I've got my routines and they're great. But I could venture out, you know, I could venture out a lot more, and still
Yes,
do things,
we
you
all
know, with the
can.
time that I have, but not necessarily the same thing every time. For example, when I go to the beach, I always go to the same beach. I love that beach, but there are like 40 different beaches that I could also choose. I just kind of
Yeah.
like that one. So I keep doing it because I'm sort of like, I know if I walk like from one
comforting.
side to the other a few times, it's like 3 miles, you know, I'm, you know, getting
know
my
what you're gonna
Fitbit
get.
stats in. Yeah. And it's like never not pretty. And that said, it's good to venture out.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that talk about like, oh, have you been here? Have you been there? And there's all this Strawberry Rock and this other cove, and I'm like, no, that sounds
Right.
awesome. But then I always go back to the same places. I mean, I do explore a little bit. I mean, I explored this area in college pretty extensively, but we all could get out a little bit more, especially from this last couple years of being sequestered.
Oh man, I know. Yeah, I mean, everybody gets a little bit of a pass of not, you know,
Yeah.
venturing, you know, out so much the last couple of years. And, you know, depending on where you are and comfort level, there's no right answer there. But this actually brings me to a topic I wanted to just kind of just bat around a little bit with you, Heather.
Okay.
If you could, and I know we both talk about how great it is where we live, but also challenges of where we both live, and places that we used to live, and places that we miss or would like to visit again. And I'm not like moving right now, but I do, as a renter, I know that nothing is permanent, at least as far as living situation goes, unless, I own a place at some point, which, fingers crossed, maybe I will, who knows? But if I were, if I were to be like, okay, I'm heading on to the next place, where would that place be? And I'm not talking about, so I mean, I could easily say San Francisco because I've lived there. I mean,
Sure.
in pretty much every neighborhood of San Francisco for like the better part of 20 years, or LA, which is the city I've lived in the second longest amount of time. I mean, if you don't count childhood, which was up here in Sonoma County where I am now. But like, okay, but like, of all the cities in the world, what cities seem cool? And maybe I've even been to, and I would love to visit, but wouldn't want to live there.
Yeah.
And this is, no knock on anyone who lives anywhere because it's a very personal decision. But I think Miami is out.
Yeah.
For me.
So you broke your foot, right?
Yeah, it's where I broke my foot. But I mean, I love Miami. Don't get me wrong. I love Miami. But I've only ever been there to like,
Party.
yeah, girls' weekend, hang by the pool, do Miami things. That's not real life. I don't think that would be a place that I would be like, let's put down some roots kind of thing.
I mean, I think some people like live that life all the time, I mean, I guess it seems
I
like
can't.
that on Instagram.
I need some rest, girlfriend.
Yeah.
But I have some friends who have who either live there or have recently relocated, and I see their like high-rise apartments, and I'm like, wow, it looks really nice. But I don't think it would be for me, and I could say
Yeah.
that about a lot of cities, like Shanghai. Like, no, it's
Well, especially not right now.
Well, sure. But like there are cities where I'm like, ooh, exciting. Definitely into like exploring for sure. I mean, I'll go to any city, even like
Sure.
a city I don't like. I feel like I get something out of it. Like there's enrichment of like
Sure.
being in a new place and seeing a layout and everything. But to live somewhere is very different than like, see the sights, go to the museum, take a photo in front of that landmark that is so important, etc.
I agree.
And yeah, I mean, I always say like, oh, I could live in Paris. Could I? Probably. But I mean, I know that, and you've talked about this on the show a lot, that, you had a year in Paris that was kind of, bad weather and at times pretty challenging.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
that goes for like any place, even if you see it with like the rosiest colored glasses, in theory is going to be challenging.
Of
And
course.
so I kind of remind myself of that sometimes where I get sometimes frustrated or a little antsy because I
Yeah.
move around a lot.
It's nice not to move around. I actually, because I've moved
it-
around quite a bit too.
Yeah. I mean, I usually, I mean, my threshold is usually about 2 years, like
Yeah.
right around 2 years, either there's a job change
Mm-hmm.
or, I'm sick of my apartment or some combination of both, or
So you've
there's
been there
some
for what,
kind of
3
reason.
years?
No, not even 3. No, going on 3. Going on
Okay,
3.
going on 3.
But that's that's kind of long for me. And
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'll die here. I don't know. But I always think about like, okay, there's a next chapter going on, and it could be
Sure.
lots of different places.
Well, that's
and
what's so
yeah.
interesting. Anything can happen. And that's, I mean, you've seen kind of what has happened to me in the last couple of years. I mean, I got kind of propelled into this other sort of existence, even though
Yeah.
I'm still the same person. But I do like the experience of shaking it up and living somewhere that's a different climate, experiencing, like whatever culture that is. Like, yes, if you're in the same place day after day you dig deep, and that's really valuable. But I also like switching it up. I like to see how other people live in these, very different areas, different flora and fauna. And it's, I don't know, it makes life feel longer, and you have more history because you've changed it up a little bit. I mean, I don't really need to move every 2 years. I don't necessarily want to do that. But when I was in LA, I guess it was a week or two ago, and I was there for like a good week. And like I said, I'm in a place that's like a little bit like a pied a terre where I feel comfortable. And, I could picture myself there. If I were to move back to LA, it would have to be under certain circumstances, though. I think I'll be a little more particular about where in the city I would live. And the reason why I like this place so much is it's perched above the city and it's kind of above the fray. And I don't know if I would want to, I don't know if I want to live in the thick of it. I have some friends who just like live, which they have cute houses and they have great lives. But, I live down in kind of the West Hollywood area, and it's very dense. I wouldn't do that again. I would definitely try to find, and it's hard to find those places in LA. I mean, they're very expensive. I was just looking at the real estate for actually some of those areas. I mean, it's like, at least 3 mil, if not more. But yeah, I would say for me, Miami wouldn't be my bag. I do love going there. I've had a lot of fun there. I think for me, and sometimes I'll fantasize. I mean, I did fantasize about New York for a long time, but I think I wouldn't want to do it now because it's just too big of a city, and it's just, there's too much. I'd rather just visit. But I think places that appeal to me aren't really in the middle of the United States. They're more kind of on the edges, I think. Probably mostly West Coast. I would consider, I've thought about like Santa Fe. I thought would be maybe a cool experience to own something there, just out of state.
I've never even been there. It seems
great.
Really cool. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. I like New Mexico a lot. I like the Southwest. I have a friend who just bought a house in New Orleans, which I think that's just amazing. So like romantic and fun and cool. I mean, I think be too worried about hurricanes and tornadoes and stuff, but I have to hand it to them for, just getting into it. I think New Orleans is a really special city. I'll visit it any day. I get the allure. I think for me, I tend to think a little bit further out. I have always had a very strong pull to Europe, and it might have been, my family history and just going as a young kid and living there and all the things. But I really fantasize about like living there again, and maybe Paris, maybe a different part of France, maybe Italy. I fantasize about that a lot. I don't fantasize much about living further east, like you're saying, like China. Like I am fascinated by China and a lot of those places, but I wouldn't want to live there. It's so polluted. You have to wear a face mask. Like that to me, it's important to have some relatively fresh air. I mean, even though I do like LA, that the air isn't that great, but
I know,
it's all relative.
Come on, Heather.
Yeah. It's stuff like that.
I get it.
It's a lifestyle
personal
thing, I
personal
guess.
preferences. I mean, they're we all have them, just like we all have other things.
But I also get like I fantasize about getting like swept off my feet by someone. Not like I need that right now. I have a wonderful partner, but I live in a fantasy bubble, Sarah, and I'm whisked off by like an Australian man.
Oh God.
And like I just like moved to Australia. And
what's happening here? Really? This is a fantasy of yours.
Just
no knock on the Aussies for sure. I just didn't realize you wanted this for yourself.
I think it's just like I think I'm fascinated by this, just such a drastic different culture. Like I'd want to experience it through the eyes of someone who is an actual local. And maybe it's not like I want to live there. I just want to go there and visit my koala. I don't know. I just think about it.
Right. It always comes back to the koala. That's cool. It's cool.
Do we need to do like a top 3 of where we wouldn't live and where we would live?
Yeah, I sort of feel like I threw Miami under the bus because if you happen to be listening to the episode and you either live in Miami or want to or just like it, trust me, I love it. I'm just not sure it would be a for me full-time type of place.
Yeah.
But like top 3, gosh, I don't know. I mean, LA, I love LA. Yeah. I think LA, people have lots of issues with LA, and many of those issues are totally warranted. I find it, and it depends on where you live. You gotta,
It does.
you get your situation right. I think it's a fun, livable, friendly,
Yeah.
you got everything around you kind of
Yeah.
a place.
I
But
agree.
it is what it is. There's always
You have to be cool to like sit in the car for a while.
yeah, or I mean, when I lived in Venice and I lived in Echo Park, I never drove anywhere.
Yeah, you were
And
lucky because you worked from home.
well,
you did
yeah. So
your podcasting from home.
there's that. If you got to commute, it's a totally different story. But I mean,
It is.
people would go, "What do you mean you don't drive in LA?"
Mm-hmm.
And I'd be like, "Well, the grocery store is down the street, and the park is right behind me. If I doing like dog walkies, and I like that croissant place on the corner, and I mean,
Yeah,
it's
you are a
like
creature of habit.
you yes you just I really
And
am a
that's why
creature
your
of habit.
experience is so, you never had to do that. Like it's true. You didn't really ever have to do any major commuting. And that definitely changes things. Like for
Well,
sure.
there was a point where I lived way over on the west side, right at the beach, and I was driving to mid city every day. And I don't know, maybe I'm just such an awesome person that I don't hate commuting, but it's like there is something about it, maybe not at night so much because you're kind of tired and fried, but in the morning
Yeah.
being like, okay, I'm gonna be in my car for the better part of an hour,
Yeah.
and I'm alone,
I don't mind
and
the
maybe I
morning
got a
either.
coffee,
Yeah.
and I'm
You're
kind of
listening
just
to
like,
morning radio.
yeah, and you're just being silent and sort of
Totally.
doing your thing. It never really bothered me.
See,
But
I
I
like
know
the
commutes
morning.
could be worse than,
Yeah, it's the
even the one I
evening.
had was not that bad. I just crawled along.
Yeah, like I totally know what you're saying. Like I actually had one of my biggest commutes was from Echo Park to Venice,
Yeah,
because I worked for Snap.
that's brutal.
Oh,
Yeah.
it was insane. And the problem with it is that the way LA is laid out, it's like you have to take surface streets. I mean, mostly you cut through the city. And I didn't mind the morning, I'm peppy. Yeah, I got my coffee. I like listening to the radio. It goes by pretty quickly. But yeah, the evening after a long day and it's already dark at 5 o'clock, that was brutal. And you're hungry and anyway. But yes, if you can set yourself up right, like if I could set myself up in the hills somewhere in a canyon with a modest bungalow, yeah, I could picture myself there for sure. But
Yeah.
yeah, among other things, other than submitting all of my tax returns, I'm feeling pretty good about myself. No, really
Me
though, it
too.
was a
I
lot.
I am donezo with all of that.
Yeah, I
And
paid mine
boy,
yesterday.
is it a load off.
Yeah, I owed a little bit, just personal taxes, but like my personal taxes were really easy. It was more the business taxes that was the real bear, but it's all done. I'm good for another less than a year and until I do it again. But I kind of switched gears and I've been working on a memorial video for my mom, and my boyfriend's editing it. He's an editor. And so we've been kind of working together on it, and it's fun to be kind of back in the Bay, like where our offices are next to each other. And like he would just call me, even though we're right next to each other, and hey, can you come check this out? And it's like, when an editor calls you in and they want you to watch a cut and then you give
Yeah.
notes and then it's just like, I miss
Aw,
that,
that's
I
cute.
know. It was really fun. And we're still working on it. We're almost done, but people are sending photos, and I'm getting photos from people I don't even know, friends of my mom that they just happen to have all these photos I've never seen before. And I'm going through boxes that I didn't know I had. I even found a little box of my dad's stuff from when he traveled in Russia and when he threw these parties in San Francisco, and like stuff that I'd never seen before, like photos of him on this volcano, when he was in his 40s, and just like cool stuff, so all these relics. And I'm scanning and making my digital folders. So I've got like, photos on my computer. I have photos on my phone. People are texting me photos. They're emailing me photos. They're sending me Dropbox links. It's all very confusing. But what's interesting about it is in trying to find photos of my mom, we're doing it chronologically, which is actually pretty cool. So it starts out with like the first picture of, my mom as a baby with like her parents, in one of those like black and white photos, at Kmart or whatever. And then it just kind of goes all along until, the last time we saw her, kind of thing. And it's weird to see your history in that way. It's like I'm looking at my mom's history, but it's also part of my history. It's like I'm digging up the history of me because I'm seeing myself in photos that I've never seen before, where I'm like, I had really short hair and I'm like, who is that, me? Like, I'm like in the background or something, or I'm at the dinner table and it's like, I've never seen this photo before. Wow, is that what I look like? It was like a zillion years ago. And, even like I found a photo of my sister yesterday and she looked really cute. She had like this cute haircut. She actually looked happy. And she was with some guy. I'm like, who is this guy? And just, had to figure out like what date was this, what year, and she's like, oh yeah, I dated this Stanford grad for a minute. And I'm like, you did? And I realized that was the year I was in Paris, which, I missed a lot, obviously, when I was gone. But it's just like, wow, like I really have a history. Like it's so, talk about middle-aged. It's really a trip going through this process. And I would have never thought, years ago that I would ever be going through this process, but it's neat and it's comforting, but it's also, heartbreaking, and you really feel like the time goes really fast. But at the same time, you're like, wow, that was a long time ago. It's like this weird kind of, did that ever happen? That chapter of my life. And it's been an interesting process. So the memorial is next weekend, and it's going to be an informal affair, which I like, because my mom was just, she was cute and festive and kind of a gypsy, and she wouldn't have wanted anything too formal. So we've rented a place. It's a place that we've thrown parties at before. This is in Santa Cruz. And, we're going to have like a fancy Mexican food truck, and we're going to have like a band, and, we're going to have all of our art on the walls. It's going to be sweet. I'm looking forward to it, but I'm also, I guess I gotta be okay with falling right back into, everyone's going to talk to me and wonder how I'm doing. And, it's just going to be a can of worms,
Yeah. Even if it's great, it's still draining. I mean, it's just what happens when, you've got to make small talk or even get into deeper stuff with a lot of people at once.
Precisely. Yeah. So wish me luck.
I will. It's, you mentioned sort of like photos where there are, I don't know, where am I even going with this? When I was a kid, and to this day, although somewhat less so, and I think, it's just because everything's on my smartphone now, but I mean, I was obsessed with photography. It wasn't so much that I was like some great photographer, but my dad was very, very into photography. That was always his thing. He always had a camera. And so there are just a lot of photos. Huge dressers filled with photos. And of course, these are like photos that had to be printed out back in the day. And I would every so often just be like, I want to go through all the photos, and sometimes it was a sort of a mess, and my parents would be like, really, Sarah, you've looked at these photos a lot. No, I want to look at them again. Because I love those moments. And a lot of those photos I haven't looked at in a really long time. I think my mom has organized them nicely. They're around somewhere. But that is, if there was anything in my life that was very, very meaningful to me, there's kind of nothing tangible that is very meaningful to me, to be honest, except all those photos.
Yeah, I know. And that
everything else is just kind of like, sure, it might be expensive and hard to replace, but like it just doesn't mean anything to me except stuff like that.
No, it's so true. And I am so grateful so my boyfriend's a photographer and he's always shooting stuff, and I'm so grateful for it.
He's very artistic.
He very much is. Yes. He's very creative.
In a good way.
Yeah.
I mean that in the best way possible. Like he's cool. He's got a good eye.
Yeah, he's definitely an artist for sure. And he has his thing, things that he sees that nobody else sees. But he takes a lot of like he has a bunch of different Polaroid, like nice Fuji Polaroid type things, instant cameras. He has a bunch of other cameras too, but he's really into this whole instant thing right now. And there's like different formats. There's like the wide format and like the really small ones. And he took it out to the beach yesterday, and he's just documenting our life, which I'm so grateful for, that I have like this personal documentarian because I'm kind of got my nose in the flowers. I'm just like taking pictures of bees and stuff. So, so I'm really glad that he's around.
Yeah, I think, I blamed my smartphone for nothing earlier, but and there's nothing to blame. I mean, I pretty much never don't have my phone on my person, or at least like close to me, which is funny because now that I'm rocking this Apple Watch, I got cellular data turned on because I was like, yeah, it might be kind of interesting to just use your watch, but it's like, but it's not a camera.
Yeah.
Like
it's true.
Not having a camera on me is kind of weird to me. I don't always take pictures of everything all day, every day. But when you see something,
yeah, you want to have something
do a
there
little,
for sure.
Yeah, and it's like it might not even go anywhere. No one else will see it. I have this thing with license plates, and I love vanity plates, and so I take pictures of other people's vanity plates, and it's like I don't know. I just that still is it's in there somewhere,
yeah.
but yeah. But I mean, I there was a time where I would have just been like constantly taking portraits of my friends. And I don't really do that so much anymore. And part of me is like, maybe we all have that capability. So it feels a little bit like, oh, are you going to be that guy? Like kind of invasive type thing. I don't know. I think about this all the time because I love photography and I love all the options we have. It just, it's a personal journey.
It is. And it just changes, like I used to do tons of art. Like, I mean, I did a lot more artsy photography and sculpture. And like, I'm like, what art am I going to do? At some point, I hope that I will do some kind of traditional art, but I don't know what it will be. And yeah, I'm really curious to see how we all change and evolve. Anyway, so Sarah.
Yes, Heather.
How you feeling over there?
I'm okay. How are you?
Doing pretty good.
Let's do a little check-in.
Let's do a little check-in.
Besides being slightly overcaffeinated, doing really well. If you are also doing well, we would love to know. We always tell you this, but do email us. You got something on your mind. Maybe we strike a chord in our conversations because sometimes Heather and I feel like we live in a vacuum, but I know we don't. You're all with us along for the ride. hi@havesuchagoodday.com is where you can send in some thoughts. And just a reminder that if you are not a patron and you would like to consider directly supporting the show, patreon.com/havesuchagoodday is where you can find out more about what to do there. Thank you to all of our patrons. You do help us keep the lights on, literally. And, one of the perks for $5 a month or more, but that's the minimum. You could join our Discord if you're a chatty type. You like chatting with like-minded folks online. We've got a really good group in there, and we're always looking for more folks to hang out with in between shows.
Or you can be an observer, a fly on the wall, a wallflower. And
that
not
too.
chime in very much and just stalk us all. But yes, you guys.
I mean, I do that sometimes. There are sometimes full weeks that go by where I'm like, oh, our Discord is so fun. And then I realize I kind of haven't said anything. Totally. But I've just been, catching up on everybody else.
I like hearing the little alerts because like Discord has a very specific sound when someone pings. I mean, I have like the sound alerts on. I don't see it like as a banner or anything, but I'm like, oh, someone said something. It's so exciting. Anyway, Sarah, this has been a hoot.
I know it is.
It's always fun to yak up a storm with you.
It has. I agree. I also like yaks.
Oh, me too.
The animals.
Totally. Yaks are.
I mean,
very cool. You don't hear.
I don't
about
think I
yaks
could
very
have
often.
a pet yak anytime soon. You don't.
And why
I would like to,
is it called
I
a
would
yak?
like to hear more about yaks.
What is the origin story of the
I don't know.
name yak? Very bizarre.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. But yeah. This is probably something we could
I'm
find
gonna
on the
Google it.
internet. If only we had the tools to do
Or maybe
that.
I'll ask Jeeves.
But yes, so without further ado, ask Jeeves, Heather. Yes, I will go to Netscape Navigator and we can compare notes later.
Sounds good.
We're going to go ahead and wrap up this show, though, because it's getting weird. Episode 145 is in Le Can.
Le Can.
And how do you say can in French?
Ooh, can in French. Maybe Le Can? I don't even know, actually. Huh.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't either. Yeah, I know. I was Sort of bombarded you with that
Oh,
one.
maybe
You're
maybe
just
it's
so
like
much
it's something
better at
like
French than I am.
canette or something. It's something similar to. It's like got the root cans, like canette or something like that. Yeah, don't quote me on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so episode 145 is in Le Canette or something like that, something similar. And it's been a lot of fun, and we're gonna do it all again next week.
And I am
until then,
definitely
I will remain Sarah.
And I'm going to be Heather. I'm not going to be Sarah. Sarah, you're not going to be me. Don't even try it.
No, we're not gonna switch bodies. Not this week, Heather. Nope, not gonna do it. Thanks everybody for listening, and we hope you have such a good day. Until next time.
Ciao.